everyone, hope you're doing well. A bit of a different one because we've got no game week this weekend. We thought let's do a bit of an FPL concept type team. So the big question over the last few weeks has been how can you get Haaland and Salah into your team? Both are performing ridiculously well at the minute. Unsustainable data from both. But can you fit them both into the same squad? That's a challenge myself and Frankie have set ourselves. And we've come up with our teams. We're going to explain them in just a second. But before we do, we created a new league. Here is the code for it. So that middle one is a 0. So it's DQ0E52. That is a private league for the viewers of this series only. So myself and Frankie will be in it, and only the viewers of this Fantasy League series on YouTube will be in it as well. And at the end of the season, whoever is top will win a signed Julian Dix print. Now, if you do not support West Ham, that's okay. We will sort you out with a other prize for the team that you support. But if you're a Hammer, it will be a signed Julian Dix print. Get involved. The link is in the description below as well. So you click the link, you will automatically be added into the league. So there you go. Get entered. It starts game week 4. So your first 3 weeks, it doesn't matter what your score is. You're starting on 0 from game week 4 onwards. So even if you had a crap start to the season, don't worry. You can still win this league. We're all starting from scratch. Right, Frankie, do you want to do your team or my team?
Oh, well, I'll go first this time. Let's go first.
How did you find it? Did you find it easy enough, or?
I think there's the obvious choices at the moment. There's some that are kind of shoo-ins, things that I think people feel like are must-haves. So I think even though you're trying to get 2 in, you're trying to save a few quid, there were still some automatic picks.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at Frankie's team now. It's on the screen for you. So you've got Flecken and Steele in goal. So 4.5 million goalkeepers in there.
Yeah, saved a few quid there. And with the games weeks that they've got coming up, obviously you wouldn't have Flecken this week or game week 4 against Man City, but still only playing against Ipswich, and then Flecken has quite a good run after Man City, so they can sort of be chopped around, and both of them are doing reasonably well so far. So save a few quid on the goalkeepers.
Yeah, that's my kind of goalkeeper strategy. I know some people. A common one this season has been having Henderson and I can't recall his name, the substitute goalkeeper for Crystal Palace now is 4 million. So you've always got the Palace goalkeeper. That makes me scared having this, and you've got to have the Palace keeper. Right, talk me through your defence there.
So I think Lewis, I mean, he's played so many minutes for City. I think he might have played every minute for Man City so far this season. So, a guaranteed starting player, getting all of the minutes. Also, I think Guardiola this season is not as forward as he has been in past seasons. It seems like they're using their wingers a lot more, and Guardiola isn't kind of getting the freedom to bomb forward and attack as much. So if you're looking for a defender, cheap, guaranteed minutes in a team that is going to dominate football matches, Lewis seems to be like that automatic pick, if you like. So he seems to be the one that everybody's going for right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's guaranteed minutes. This is what puts me off, though. I just don't trust Pep. However, he's one of the players. If I was to write a list of 10 players I regret not having from the start, Rico Lewis would be on there. I just wish I knew he was going to be playing this amount of time.
Yeah.
Got an assist against West Ham as well, of course, setting up Haaland too. Mazraoui coming into your defence, though, I thought was quite...
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think Ten Hag has got those, while Man United are not great, I think Ten Hag's got those tendencies at times to be very passive, to sort of shut up shop, make it difficult for teams to play against them. So defensively, they may not be the best, but they do tend to approach games sometimes basically trying to not let the other team score goals. But you've got Mazraoui, who does seem to have a bit of freedom. He seems to have come in, he started looking really positive, they're really liking the look of him, and it seems like he is going to be allowed to get forward. So based on that, opportunity for returns based on clean sheets, but also you could get some attacking returns for him as well. So again, cheap at 4.5 million. So for me, if you're looking at getting Haaland and Salah in, there's got to be sacrifices somewhere.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily see him as a total sacrifice. I think he's all right at 4.5 million.
Hey, I mean, he plays for Man United. Man, you're not having the greatest times. I kind of get it. Trent and Robinson stay. That makes sense. Now, how do you pronounce that Villa guy?
I have no idea, but I'll go with Nedeljkovic.
That sounds good to me. Has got some minutes under his belt in the opening stages of the Premier League season, but also just 4 million.
Yeah, that was the sacrifice. He was the one who's really cheap. He is getting minutes, like you say, not many, quite often as a substitute, but they did have a bit of an injury to Matty Cash, and he plays on that right hand side of the defence. So it was looking like he might be the starter, but they actually had another right back who they've been starting instead of Matty Cash. So it was a bit of a shame. Everyone thought he was going to be that little golden nugget, if you like, that Matty Cash injury, he's guaranteed to start, and then they pick up this other right back out of nowhere, and he's the one who's been getting the nod ahead of him. So
I think you might be okay when Champions League comes round. I've been looking at the schedules of clubs that are in Champions League because they've got 8 group stage games instead of 6, and like Liverpool and Arsenal and that as well. It's like between now and Christmas, they're playing pretty much every midweek. It's a ridiculous amount. So I think there's going to be a lot of rotation for those clubs in Champions League football, and Aston Villa are one of them. So I don't think he will play Champions League, so I think his minutes will come in the Premier League. So I think it's quite an astute pick, actually. Now, moving into midfield, you've gone from a complete overhaul here, Frankie. 5 out and 5 in. So obviously Salah's come in. Gone with Ramsey.
Yeah, Ramsey, again, it's just that money-saving pick again, I guess. And I wanted Villa in there because I haven't got Watkins because he's got that sort of yellow sign at the moment that he might have a bit of a knock. So Watkins isn't in. If I had Watkins, don't know if I'd have picked Ramsey, but I wanted some Villa in there. He's come in basically because he's cheap. But, well, actually, Gio, let's be honest. He's in because you've been singing his praises, mate. So I'm going to go with your tip there.
Rodgers have been singing. I like Ramsey.
Oh, is it Rodgers?
Yeah, it's Rodgers. We'll get on to my team in a minute. Mitoma, though, makes sense. He looks good. Mitoma looks good.
And they've hit the ground running. I wasn't sure Brighton were quite going to be as good as they have been this season, but they're looking great. So it's
they're looking better, aren't they?
They are actually looking better. I totally agree with that.
Funny, it's like Porter goes like, oh, what's going to happen? De Zerbi comes in and does better. Then De Zerbi goes, oh, now he's got Fabian's come in and done even better as well. So I've been impressed. You brought Eze in, though. Is that someone you feel you've missed the boat on a little bit?
No. Up until even when he played West Ham, he hadn't been getting returns. He obviously hit the post against West Ham. He had a real close shot, but he hadn't been getting returns. So I'm quite happy I didn't have him from the beginning. But in a team where we're saving money to, I've obviously got Trent in as well. So I've got the most expensive defender. I've got the most expensive midfielder and the most expensive attacker. At some point, you've got to make, some lower end choices. But Eze, I think, well, he's their main man, isn't he? So, I think he's a decent mid-level pick in a side where you've got the 2 big boys in there. Well, the 3 big boys, really.
I must pull you up on your last guy, who's a big boy physically. A little bit of a Gonzo favourite here, Adama Traore.
Yeah, I mean, he's started really well. He's got a lot of points already. So it was either him or Smith Rowe. I was toying with the 2. I ended up with, if I'm honest, first draft, I had 3 Fulham players. So, and then I looked and I thought, I can't have 3 Fulham players. As much as I think they're an half-decent team, they ain't good enough to have 3 players in there. So, Smith Rowe got sacrificed. Adama came in. That saved 0.6 million, I think it is, which allowed me to bring in Mitoma. So I feel like that made sense. It was either Smith Rowe or take him out, put Adama in and be able to get Mitoma in. So that was the trade-off.
I have to confess, when you sent your team over, obviously you glance at it quickly, don't you? I like your attack. Obviously, you've got to have Erling Haaland. You have to have him because that's the game. But Isak and Pedro as well. That is some attack you've got there, Frankie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where the confidence is, It's that's where I'm strong. The midfield, I think you look at it and you go a bit like, meh, okay, I can see why you've had to have some of those players in because you've obviously got Salah in there. I'm all right with my defence. I quite like the defence. I think having Trent Robinson's been getting loads of returns, so I'm really happy with that. So my defence, I'm good with. It's that midfield that looks a bit iffy, but the attack, I don't think there's been any sacrifices there. If you said you haven't got Salah, I'd probably still have the same front three.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, when I saw your team come through, the only concern I've got over Pedro at the minute is he got a late call up to that Brazil squad, so he's now on international duty. But we were just playing the game. However, I've got to ask the big question: are you tempted to wild card and switch to this Salah and Haaland concept?
I have to say I am, and it isn't just because the team. I look at what games that setup has got for the next 3 weeks, and actually I would be a very comfortable place for the next 3 weeks with that side. So they're not necessarily what I think are the best picks. I have taken into consideration, if I push the button on it, what is their next matches looking like, and they've all got really good matches in front of them. The only thing that I thought was I struggled with a little bit with the decision that I've got is I had no Chelsea in there, because they appear on the app to have those 3 green lights in front of them on the next matches. But actually, when you look at it, they've got West Ham, and I think we're going to do a number on them, and they've got Brighton. Are they green lights for Chelsea? I'm not so sure. So that's why Chelsea got left out.
I ignored the Fantasy League lights. I'm like, I will judge it for myself. Thank you very much. I'm not listening to you because I'm a bit like that. Brighton, hang on a minute. That's not an easy fixture as far as I'm concerned. I'm not having that. So I'm very much like you. I'll judge it when I see it. And also for Manchester City, bar Arsenal and Liverpool, it should be green lights all the way. Maybe not Aston Villa, but when they're playing West Ham away, when they're playing Crystal Palace away, it should still be green. For Man City, it should just be green for the whole season, because it's context, isn't it? That fixture is simply easier for Man City than, say, West Ham playing Everton away. What's more difficult? Man City playing Palace away, West Ham playing Everton away. I would argue it's easier for Man City playing West Ham away. Do you know what I mean? So it's context. So I'm not having that green thing either. Right, would you like to see my team?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Frankie hasn't seen my team yet, so I'm going to talk you through my 11. So I've got Henderson and Flecken in goal. At the minute, I've got Henderson and Pickford, and I've really messed up with Jordan Pickford here. So Everton were clean sheets all over the gaff last season, but this season they're crap. So Flecken, Henderson, I'm happy with that. What do you think of my keepers? You happy with my choices?
Yeah, they were potentials on my side. Henderson was the other one that you could bring in, so yeah, makes sense.
My back 5, I'm keeping Porto, Trent and Gabriel. I think the 3 of them are fantastic. I think Porto was shooting non-stop against Newcastle. Goals are coming for him. Trent, you just have to have him. I think he's ridiculously good. Clean sheets galore. Keeps getting subbed, but he's getting subbed after the hour mark, so I'm okay with that. And Gabriel, especially with Tottenham up next, who can't defend set pieces to save their lives. I want an Arsenal centre-back in there for attacking those set pieces. Obviously, no Declan Rice to swing them in, but Gabriel's in there. And then I agree with you with Rico Lewis. I feel like I missed the boat with him, so he comes in. And then Mosquera, £4 million defender, but he is playing for Wolves. So a bit of a... I think if you can pick up a $4 million defender that's getting game time, I think that's always, you almost have to disregard the team to some extent. So look, he's getting minutes. That's the most important thing. But that's my defense. What's your evaluation?
Yeah, really good, really strong. I think your defense is probably a little bit stronger than mine. I like the Gabriel in there. It makes sense. So yeah, I think that's looking solid.
I've got a sacrifice up front, though, but in midfield, no sacrifices. I'm keeping my Semenyo, Frankie. I've got a massive Semenyo love in. Got his goal last week. Did you see it come up? Now, funny enough...
Tell him, Gio, tell him.
So last week's podcast, I made an argument that you don't jinx stuff, that it doesn't matter. Myself and Frankie captained Haaland, banged in a hat-trick against West Ham, but you think that was bad. Forget that. Everton were 2-0 up against Bournemouth. Frankie texts me saying Bournemouth are crap. Semenyo scores, Bournemouth scored again, win 3-2. So I think there is an element of jinxing it kind of thing. But Semenyo got me my goal last week, so I'm pleased with that one. Rodgers, that's my love in Villa player. So Rodgers is in there, staying in there. Eze I'm keeping. Salah has to come in. Now, I put Mbeumo, however, I possibly wouldn't bring him in just yet. Brentford on the horizon have got some nice fixtures coming up, and you're getting Brentford striker. Him and Whistler are Brentford strikers at the minute, and I think you're using a midfield space to get an extra striker into your team. And at 7.1 million, I don't think it's the most offensive price on the market either. Obviously, gone up 0.1, so I've missed the boat a little bit, but I'm okay with that one. I can't recall who my alternative. Oh no, I can. My alternative to Mbeumo was going back to Minte, however you say his name, the Brighton winger. Looks good. Not much returns from him yet, but Brighton looked good. And I was a little bit wary of game time for the Brighton attack, but I think the last couple of weeks has calmed me down a little bit with Mitoma, Minte, and then Pedro and Welbeck's doing well up front. And they've still got a lot of talent on that bench, but I'm inclined to get Brighton into my team. And to do so, I've got Pedro up front as well as Haaland, but I've also gone Delap. Now, this is purely a money thing, Frankie. He's 5.5 million. Scored an absolute banger against Fulham. Destroyed Quansah when he played Liverpool. He won't start for me too often, but I don't know. I quite like him actually, Liam Delap. I think he's putting himself about a little bit.
A little story, Gio. People may know and may not know that I do a lot of trading in football cards, and when he was in the under 21 league, he broke about every record that there was going. He was the man, tipped to be the next big thing. Almost a new Harry Kane. He reminded a lot of people of Harry Kane at Millwall and Norwich. Just a great finisher, big, tall, strong. Looks like he was going to take that step up quite comfortably and quite easily. And I basically invested quite heavily into him. And I still have all of his cards sitting around me, all extremely rare, one of ones and all that sort of stuff. And he obviously went to Hull. They said quite good things about him, but he had a spell at Preston where he couldn't get on the pitch, and it looked like his career was just massively going down the pan. But I spoke to a guy who's a big Ipswich fan, and he was saying that their manager is basically just first and foremost a really good coach. He's not necessarily a manager, he's more of a coach than he is a manager. And he said that the guy is just singing his praises, just literally always just talking about how he is going to be, you know, in the future, just an absolute superstar. So maybe not all is lost yet, mate. I thought all of those cards, they'd gone into the boxes and gone hidden away, and I never thought they'd see the light of day again. But maybe there's still hope that he will come good, and I'll make a few quid further down the line.
Yeah, I've been impressed by what I've seen so far, and I think he's like almost guaranteed to start as well, which is important. You know, you couldn't really pick up a West Ham striker at the minute, Fulkrug or Antonio, because A, you don't know which one will start, and B, there's maybe a chance down the line there'll be Bowen that's playing up front for West Ham. So there's some teams that are a little bit iffy when you come to the actual striker. And obviously Crystal Palace, Mateta, you feels assumed, but they've just gone and got Nketiah as well. So is his minutes under threat? So I think with Delap, I've gone with someone A, cheap, but B, should play majority of the games and the majority of the games as well. And I can echo what you've just said about McKenna, because Frankie will be able to nod his head and agree here that I know someone in relation to, not in relation all, but in relation to Ben Johnson. And also when he was going to Ipswich, I was speaking to that person, and before it was announced, they said to me, like, McKenna, they went and met McKenna, and he just blew Ben Johnson away in terms of tactics and stuff like that. And he was like, wow, this isn't what we have at West Ham. But he knew everything about Ben Johnson, the way Ben Johnson plays, his strengths. And he said to Ben Johnson, these are your weaknesses. You're not good at this. So it's like he's trying to sign him. So while he's trying to lure Ben Johnson to Ipswich, he's also criticising a lot of his play. But he said, don't worry, we can fix this. We can work on this. I can make you a better player. It hasn't quite worked for Johnson at Ipswich yet. He's not been in the starting 11 as much as I thought he would be. Tuanzebe preferred to him against Fulham. But the point is about McKenna's attention to detail and how determined he is to improve his players as well as just picking the best team. He wants to improve the players that's under his care. So I think, yeah, I've gone with Delap. I have to say, Frankie, I'm tempted. I'm really tempted to hit that wild card, because at the minute it feels like the first weekend, Liverpool obviously went first, but the previous two weekends, Haaland played on the Saturday against Ipswich and West Ham, and Salah played on the Sunday. And I have major fear of missing out when Salah plays, and then you see him performing, and they're both hitting ridiculous numbers. I don't know. I'm just tempted to get them both in so that actually I can just sit back and enjoy both superstars performing week in, week out in the Premier League. And I'm looking at that team compared to my current one. And if I just quickly click on it, it's actually only 5 transfers. So it's actually still quite, do you know what I mean? There's not that many changes. I've still got my Eze. I've still got my back 3 of Porto, Trent and Gabriel. I've still got my main keeper in Henderson. So actually, there's not that much changes occurring. It's mainly the bench that's changing, really, rather than the actual.
This is it, Gio. This is it. So this year, what I said about rolling transfers, I used my transfers last week. But if you would have stuck with it up until now, and then you've got game week 4 to get out of the way, game week 5, you would have had 5 free transfers. You could have made them all without needing to wildcard.
Yeah, that's true.
You could have literally done all of them. And no one quite knows how to use these rolling transfers to be effective yet. But I think that's the perfect example. You only need 5 transfers in your wild card. Yet, if you had rolled every transfer up until next week, you could have done all those transfers and kept your wild card in the bank. So it's quite interesting. I've got a couple of things for you as well, Gio. A couple of little that I just want to get your opinion on.
Go on.
A little bit of differentials, having a look, and West Ham. There was nowhere near enough West Ham in those 2 teams there. If you was going to pick a West Ham defender, Kilman or Wan-Bissaka, who would you go with?
Wan-Bissaka, because I think he'll get you those attacking returns. I think
Apparently he can't attack.
He will get some.
I think he will.
I think he will get some eventually. He's not I don't think he's the best crosser, but it's law of averages to some extent, isn't it? If you get yourself into really good positions numerous times during the game, if you only get 1 or 2 chances putting a good cross, you've got to be good at crossing. But if you get 6 or 7, you can be average at crossing. There's an opportunity there. You're going to get an assist off the back of it, because especially if we have Füllkrug in the box, I know you're not keen on him, but I still think in the air he's really good. We've not taken advantage of it yet. So I would go with Wan-Bissaka if I had to go for a West Ham defender. I'm still not convinced by our clean sheets of late. I think it was down to poor finishing rather than we've suddenly made our defence better. I think our defence is still a little bit ropey, so I'm staying away from the West Ham defenders at the moment.
Fourth highest or fourth most picked goalkeeper going into game week 4, Fabianski. What do you make of that?
He's 4 million, isn't he? He's one of the cheap goalkeepers. So I think people are just getting him to save money, and it's a player people have heard of. If you look at the other goalkeepers,
I think though anybody thinks like we're not sure about Areola, actually Fabianski may start.
You've got a chance, haven't you? Because he did come off injured. However, Areola's gone on international duty, so he should be okay. Yeah. But maybe I think it's more just a money-saving exercise, and it's like I've got my main keeper, leave him in, and Fabianski just 4 million on the bench.
And last one, defensive. We said defenders who get minutes for around that 4.5 million, really useful. Sugawara of Southampton. What do you think of him?
Yeah, wing back as well. So not only is he defender, he's wing back, which is helpful.
They've got Ipswich and Bournemouth coming up. They've got obviously Man United game week 4, but after that, Ipswich and Bournemouth.
Yeah, but also, do you know with these defenders, you can lead them out easily, can't you? They're not going to be playing every week, so it's not risky to some extent. But I was just having a little look just before we came on this morning. I was looking at statistics because I'm a geek, and I'm going to do this off the top of my head, so it's not going to be 100% accurate. But West Ham have completed about 930 passes so far in the 3 weeks, right? How many do you think Southampton have done?
Oh, interesting. Well, off the top of my head, and I'm going to go with not actually trying to use the fact that you're throwing it out there as a statistic that's going to surprise us, I would have gone less than us, so I would have gone 700.
1,400.
Yeah.
Southampton are pass. Not that it makes too much difference when it comes in, but I just thought it was an interesting stat this morning. I've seen it. In terms of accuracy, they're quite high up as well because it's obviously safe passes. Who do you think? This has nothing to do with FPL, by the way. But which team do you think has the worst percentage of passes completed? So you do attempt 10, you do 8, you've got 80%. So in terms of pass success rate, which team do you think has got the worst percentage in the league?
Again, if I just go on what I've watched so far this season, without either trying to overthink it, I would have gone Bournemouth, mate, because I thought they looked terrible when we played them.
Newcastle.
Really? That is surprising.
Newcastle are bottom. Everton are second bottom, unsurprisingly, because they like to launch it, don't they? So it's like it's going to impact your success rate. Anyway, there we go. So what we're going to do, get joined up to the league. Just to remind you, there's the code DQ0E52. Get entered into the league. It starts next weekend, so everybody's got a fair chance. You've got the opportunity to use your transfers, to do your wild card. If you've sacked it off so far and you've still got to get back into it, play your wild card, get your team set up, and take myself and Frankie on. And what we're going to do every week going forward, we're going to mention who won the previous week, not necessarily top in the league overall, but who was the manager of the week, if you like. We might do a couple of spot prizes during the season as well, but there's definitely a signed Julian Dicks print up for grabs. Get your teams entered. Next weekend, we're going to catch up ahead of game week 4. And I guess the big question will be, wild card or not, Haaland and Salah or not. Myself and Frankie will be answering those. But if you would like to give us your team, get involved in the comments below. Myself and Frankie will discuss it a little bit next week. But thank you very much for joining us. Please drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. Myself and Frankie, catch you in a bit.